"If you carry me up the stairs, I'll tell you a secret," the little girl whispered, her voice thin but playful, as if she were offering a treasure instead of a favor. The mechanic stopped mid-step. The sound of tools clinking in his bag faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the dim hallway. His hands were still greasy from a long, punishing day at the shop, oil under his nails, the sharp smell of metal clinging to his clothes. He wasn't used to being asked for anything gentle. Most days, people only wanted engines fixed and bills kept low. This was different. The apartment building felt tired, like it had given up years ago. The walls were chipped, the lights flickered weakly, and the air smelled of rust, dust, and old paint. The elevator doors stood open but lifeless, a handwritten sign taped across them, out of order. It had probably been there longer than anyone cared to remember. The girl sat on the bottom step, small and fragile, her knees pulled close to her chest. Her skin was pale, almost translucent under the yellow light. In her arms, she clutched a worn stuffed bear, its fur flattened from years of love. One of its button eyes was missing, replaced with a loose thread. She stroked it slowly, as if the bear were the only thing keeping her steady. Behind her stood her mother, shoulders slumped, eyes ringed with exhaustion. She looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. One hand gripped the railing, the other rested protectively on the girl's shoulder. There was worry in her face, deep, quiet worry, the kind that doesn't need words. The stairs rose above them like a challenge, steep and endless. To her, they might as well have been a mountain. The mechanic swallowed. He hadn't planned on staying. He had only come to fix a broken water pump in a neighbor's apartment. His body ached, his legs were heavy, and all he wanted was to go home, shower, and forget the day. For a brief moment, he considered making an excuse. Someone else could help, he told himself, someone younger, someone stronger. Then the girl looked up at him. Her eyes were bright, curious, and strangely brave. She waited, patient and trusting, as if she already believed he would say yes. After a long moment's hesitation, the mechanic exhaled and set his tool bag down. Without a word, he bent his knees and gently lifted the child into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, too light. The stuffed bear pressed between them, and her head rested against his chest. "Okay," he said softly. And with that, the climb began. The first step was easy, the second one too. But by the time the mechanic reached the third, he felt the true weight of what he was carrying, not just the small body in his arms, but the fragile trust placed in him. Each step upward seemed heavier than the last, as if the staircase itself were testing his resolve. His boots echoed softly against the concrete, the sound slow and steady, matching the careful rhythm of his breathing. The girl's breathing was shallow, a faint rise and fall against his chest. He adjusted his grip instinctively, afraid of holding her too tightly, afraid of not holding her enough. Despite her weakness, she smiled, her lips curving gently as she rested her head against his shoulder. Her hair brushed his neck, soft and warm, and for a moment he forgot the ache in his arms. Between floors, she began to hum a quiet, almost fragile tune. It was uneven at first, then steadied, floating through the stairwell like a thin thread of light. The sound surprised him. It didn't match the sadness of the place or the worry etched on her mother's face. It sounded hopeful. Each note seemed to push him forward, giving him strength he didn't know he had. Halfway up, his arms started to burn. Sweat formed along his brow, sliding down his temple. He shifted her slightly, careful not to wake her if she drifted off. With every step, a strange tightness grew in his chest. He didn't know this family. He didn't know their story or how long the girl had been sick. And yet he felt responsible, as if turning back or slipping now would mean more than a simple mistake. This wasn't like fixing a broken engine or tightening a loose bolt. There was no room for error. Doors along the stairwell creaked open. Neighbors peeked out, drawn by the sound of footsteps and the soft humming. An elderly man removed his cap and held it to his chest. A woman with tired eyes pressed her hand to her mouth. No one spoke. No one offered to take the child from his arms. They simply watched silently, as if afraid to break the moment. The girl opened her eyes and looked at him. "You're strong," she whispered, her voice barely louder than her song. He smiled without answering, focusing on the steps ahead. One foot up, then the other. His legs trembled, but he didn't stop. Each floor passed slowly, measured not by numbers but by effort and determination. As he climbed higher, he realized something had changed. The stairwell no longer felt like a dark, forgotten place. It felt like a path, one he was meant to walk, step by careful step, carrying more than he ever expected. At the top floor, the mechanic finally stopped. His arms trembled as he carefully lowered the little girl to the ground, making sure her feet touched the floor gently, as if she were made of glass. He took a step back, catching his breath, his chest rising and falling heavily. The stairwell was quiet now, almost too quiet, as if it were waiting for something important to be said. The girl leaned against the wall for a moment, still holding her stuffed bear close. She looked small beneath the flickering light, but when she lifted her face to him, her eyes were bright, clear, and full of something stronger than sickness. It wasn't fear, it was trust. The mechanic wiped his hands on his jeans out of habit, leaving faint grease marks behind. He suddenly felt awkward, unsure of where to stand or what to say. He wasn't good with words. Fixing things had always been easier than facing moments like this. He opened his mouth to say it was nothing, that anyone would have done the same, but the girl spoke first. "My secret," she whispered, her voice soft yet steady as if sharing something precious, "is that I'm not scared because people like you exist." The words settled into the quiet stairwell and stayed there. For a moment the mechanic couldn't move. He felt them hit him harder than any wrench ever could, harder than long hours, missed meals, or aching bones. His throat tightened and he blinked quickly, surprised by the sudden burn in his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. To most people he was just a man with dirty hands and a toolbox. To her he was something more. Behind them, the girl's mother pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes and spilled over before she could stop them. She turned her face away, embarrassed by her emotion, but it was impossible to hide. She tried to speak, to thank him, to explain, to say anything, but her voice failed her. Instead, she nodded, a small, trembling gesture that carried more gratitude than words ever could. The mechanic felt his exhaustion fade into the background. The long day at the shop, the broken machines, the endless problems people brought to him, all of it suddenly seemed distant. In that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was the girl standing in front of him, brave enough to share her secret, and the realization that a simple act of kindness could change how someone felt about the world. He knelt slightly to meet her eye level. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice rough. She smiled, hugging her bear tighter, and as he stood there in the dim hallway, the mechanic understood something he never had before. Sometimes the most important things you fix are the ones you can't see. Weeks later, the mechanic returned to the building on a quiet morning, the sky heavy with gray clouds. He hadn't planned on coming back so soon, but the image of that stairwell and the little girl's voice had stayed with him. This time his toolbox was fuller, his steps more certain. He had told the building manager he would repair the elevator for free. No invoices, no favors owed. Some things he felt didn't need to be paid for. The elevator doors still stood open, silent and useless, the same faded sign hanging from the rail. He removed it carefully, folding the paper and placing it in his pocket as if closing a chapter. As he worked, the familiar sounds of metal and tools filled the hallway. Yet even surrounded by bolts and cables, his thoughts drifted back to that night. The weight of small arms around his neck, the soft humming in the stairwell, the secret whispered at the top floor. Neighbors gathered quietly, watching him work. A few recognized him and nodded in greeting. One woman brought him a cup of tea and set it beside his tools without saying a word. The building felt different now, warmer, less forgotten. It was as if kindness had left a mark on the walls. During a short break, the mechanic glanced toward the top floor window. There, resting on the sill, sat a familiar stuffed bear. Its worn fur caught the light, and the loose thread where the button eye once was moved slightly in the breeze. The sight made his chest ache. He asked a neighbor about the girl, already fearing the answer. "She was taken to a hospital far away," the woman said softly. "Her mother said to tell you thank you." He nodded, unable to trust his voice. Gone but not forgotten. With renewed focus, he finished the final adjustments. He wiped his hands, stepped back, and pressed the button. The elevator shuddered once, then began to rise. A low hum filled the space, steady and alive. For the first time in months, the doors closed smoothly and opened again without effort. A quiet cheer spread through the hallway. The mechanic watched as people stepped inside, relief on their faces. He imagined the little girl riding it, smiling, humming softly. The thought made him smile sadly. Some secrets don't fade, he realized. They stay with you, shaping the way you see the world. As he packed his tools and prepared to leave, he looked once more at the stuffed bear by the window. In its silence, it felt like a promise kept. The elevator now worked, but something else had changed too. The mechanic walked away knowing that a single act of kindness can echo longer than any repair, changing a person quietly forever.